Hi everyone, this is Abel. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're celebrating together all my favorite book from 2024, and we are doing it with a tag called Mid-Year Book Freakout Tag for 2024. I will mention the creators of the tag in the description box. Let's get prepared. This is going to be really fun. But before we start, remember that if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, please consider subscribing, share this video, leave a like. And if you want to have daily updates about my reading journey, you can follow me on X and on Instagram. Okay, the first question is the really hard one, the really hard hitting, because it is best book you have read so far in 2024, and I am the worst when it comes to do any kind of chart, because my reading experience is a pretty personal one, a really deep and visceral one. So if I love a book, if I enjoy a book, it is really hard for me to compare it to any other book. They're like members of my family, you know. How can you decide which one is your favorite, which one is the best? But this tag, it should be helpful to kind of sort out our feelings and our considerations about the book we have read and we have loved. So I'm not going to give you one specific answer. I'll mention a bunch of books, okay? Because this is my video and I do whatever I want. You cannot force me to choose just one book. But by now I will say that the best thing objectively on a prose point of view, on a story wise, plot wise, character development wise, it's probably Elements of Time, The Wind of Change by Sam Paisley, which I loved so much because it is a book so focused on friendship and character development, and at the same time has this huge scope with really visceral and hard-hitting on an emotional level battles and fight scenes, and a beautiful progression for the characters, a very interesting setting and a very poignant story which can be read on a variety of point of views and layers. It is complex, but at the same time is really approachable. Yeah, it really is an amazing book. And another one what can really may be one of the best books that I've read during the last couple of years, and especially at the beginning of 2024, could be The Fall of Wolfsbane by John Cronshaw. This is a high fantasy, northern inspired, character driven fantasy book, which took me by surprise because I had been following the author for a couple of years, but I've never had the chance to read anything from him, and this one took me by surprise, and I was a little bit on the fence because I am not a huge fan of Viking inspired fantasy, and this one is very much, at least in the beginning, connected to that kind of aesthetics and lore. And so yeah, I was not sure if it was going to be something right up my alley, but this is a very interesting and competently put together book with two main points of view, and brother and sisters that have been disconnected from their original country because it's been invaded, and then forced to live in the castle, and separated, one with the queen and the other one with the king of the conquering nation. And it is a really beautiful exploration of all of those dynamics when someone is forced to face a new culture and tries to live a different life without losing its own heritage, their own identity, what made them be who they are because of their culture and the relationship with their family and everything that they have lost because of the invasion, and how hard it is to decide how to move and go on after a tragedy like that, with very compelling character, a kind of slow burn, almost a slice of life first half, and a second half that builds up and becomes much more bombastic and much bigger, with a really satisfying ending and a really painful, in a way, cliffhanger, even if the story ends in a specific way that resolves many of the plot threads, but what's left out, it's huge in and of itself. So yeah, that's a big one, too, one of my favorites for this year. Yeah, let me mention another one, please. Yeah, of course, An Emperor's Gamble by Josiah Rosell, a high fantasy book from a third in a series that follows the adventures of Tal Ehrenfell. I've told you many times how much I love this series and why it is one of my favorites of all time. And I gave you a really specific review during the last couple of weeks, so just search it for on the list of videos that I've published recently, and you'll understand why. And I could go on and on just for this answer, but I'm trying to control myself. Just know that if you follow me on Goodreads and you see the books that I've reviewed, and if you read my reviews on the SFF Insiders blog, you'll see what I really love. You'll see the books that I enjoy, you'll see the book that I like, and the ones that really blew my mind, okay? There could be more, but I'm stopping here. Thank God. The second question is about a few runner-up faves, so yeah, I have a chance to tell you even more. Well, I will say At the Threshold of the Universe is the conclusion of the Camaro trilogy by Tom Bruno, and it is heartbreaking and exciting and strong and a really powerful conclusion to a story that it changes and swirls and becomes bigger and then becomes more intimate and then it becomes huge again. It's a really interesting, really unique space opera, even if it stays on unfamiliar ground. So if you like anything like Star Wars, and in a few moments it actually looks more like epic fantasy because of the scope, you will enjoy it. So if you are on the fence trying to decide if you have to read something from sci-fi or space opera, this is a big entry point, okay? And then The Son of the Prophets by Brian Wilson, book number 2 in his Power of the Stars trilogy or series. I don't know how many books there will be. This is the sequel to the Forsaken Planet, a book that I really enjoyed last year, and this one is even better, with a tighter focus on characters and on the plot, with a bigger exploration of the lore and world building, with major set pieces, a big action movie vibe, and characters that are becoming much more compelling and deep and satisfying. It's a very good book and I suggest you to give it a try, absolutely. Just another one, please, just let me mention another one. Yeah, Stone and Sky by Z.S. Diamanti. If you're searching for a really classic, really vibrant and really funny high fantasy books that has Dungeons and Dragons vibe and sword and sorcery, that it is classic in a way but actually really actual, really modern on the prose side of things, this is perfect for you. Okay, I'll stop. The real number 2 question, okay, because the other one was kind of a spin-off, is best sequel you have read so far in 2023. It goes without saying, I think that both At the Threshold of the Universe and An Emperor's Gamble are probably perfect sequels and ending to a series. I don't think you need me to tell you more about that, yeah, because I'm more than capable of gushing out about those books for 24 hours straight. So let's move along. A new release you haven't read yet, but you want to. I think that this one goes to A Memory of Song from Scott Palmer. I have an e-arc for this, and I'm an extremely slow reader, so it will take me a bit to get to that. But everything that I read in the newsletter that Scott sends every month, all his updates, all of his discussions about the nature of the book, and what he says about the things that inspired him, the kind of books that gave him, really pushed him to write this book, and of those huge and expensive books that also have a pretty close look to characters and personal drama and conflict, make me really eager to read this one too. And I mean, the cover is gorgeous, and meanwhile a novella has been already announced, and I'm not sure if it is already available or it will be soon. I should have been documenting myself better for this one. But yeah, hopefully I'll read it really soon. I'm promised to myself that I will read it before the end of summer, so I'll give you an update about this pretty soon, absolutely. Most anticipated release for the second half of the year. I have two, and they are The Mercy of Gods by James S.A. Corey, of course the creators, the duo that created The Expanse, which is probably my favorite science fiction series of all time, and probably my favorite space opera of all time. Yeah, I don't think I need to explain what The Expanse is, either on the literature side of things because of the books, or the hugely popular and appreciated TV show that hopefully will have a continuation one day. Yeah, one can hope. And yeah, The Mercy of God sounds a little bit different, of course. It sounds like they're trying to differentiate and explore new subgenres. It is set far more in a far more distant future than The Expanse, and yeah, I can't wait to taste it and try it. Arcs are already circulating, but I'm not sure if I want to read it in advance. I think I want to read it only on a physical book, and preferably a hardcover if it comes in the UK at a reasonable price, because we were allowed to buy US hardcovers in Europe for really cheap until Brexit, but now something changed because of the distribution, and now buy a US hardcover, either traditionally published or self-published, is basically impossible because of the pricing. And another books that is coming out really soon is the Exodus tie-in or expansion book called The Archimedes Engine. This is a novel set in the same universe of the upcoming epic video game titled Exodus, that has been developed by people that were behind Mass Effect, which is one of the most compelling and well done and interesting and engaging science fiction and space opera IP of all time, with video games and graphic novels and novels, which were all amazing, aside maybe Andromeda, of course. But this one is really interesting because it looks like they're putting a lot of effort and love and care to craft this universe. And the Archimedes Engine is a prequel actually to the story that will be told in the video games, and it should work as a standalone too. I don't know if they're planning to have sequels to this one. I will be happily surprised and actually really enthusiastic if we have more than this, because I want to try things from Peter F. Hamilton. I've been holding up because they're all huge books, and the sheer scope and page count it's a little bit intimidating for me, but this is the right moment and I will read that, absolutely. Question number 5. Biggest disappointment. No disappointments, because I DNF books that I don't finish, and if I don't finish a book, I'll not give you a review. And my opinion is not, it doesn't matter if I don't finish the book. I cannot give you an opinion of a 20, 25%, of 30% of the book if I forced myself to read that much of something that I don't enjoy. That's my point of view. You're totally entitled to give a rant review of books that you have read, just 10 page of it or 15 page of it, and call it a review. It is not a review, but you can call it that. But I'm not that kind of person. I don't do that. I don't have time to read things that I don't actually enjoy. So yeah, no disappointments. It's been an amazing year. 2024 is shaping to be the best year I have ever had, reading wise, and I'm happy about that. Biggest surprise, I will say, it is The End of God by Yuval Korodov. because I didn't know what to expect from this book, but I didn't expect it to be that kind of book. This is weird. It is very well written, with an cryptic and elegant prose, with a really interesting writing style, with a complex story that never goes the way you think it is going and never goes towards the direction you think it is going, with really horrible characters and a few one that actually straddle that thin line between good and evil. It is a really interesting story, really unique, and it took me by surprise in the best way possible. So yeah, it's a post-apocalyptic science fiction story that verges on sci-fantasy a little bit too, with big questions and big themes, and yeah, it is really interesting. You should give it a try, absolutely. Favorite new author? I have loved all the authors that I've mentioned, even the ones that have been debuting with that specific book that I've mentioned, like Yoel Kordoff, for example. But I think that the one that holds more promise to me for this first half of the year is actually Joshua Walker, the one who wrote this really short novella, The Rest to the Gods, and the first book, actual first book in the series, An Exile of Water and Gold, will be released in September, because he did something special. He did something that it is both traditional high fantasy, the ones that we have always loved when we were teenagers, and at the same time it's extremely fresh and new because of the setting. This world, when we have this nation, this tree that it is that huge that it covers up an entire nation with specific races and cultures living in this symbiotic relationship with the tree, and all the political conflicts and struggles and cultural struggles that move around that, which were compellingly foreshadowed and conveyed in that really short novella. So I can only imagine how great and amazing it will be to read book one, actually. So yeah, just keep an eye on Joshua Walker, because I'm sure he will do great things. And I think that Z.S. Diamanti too has the potential to become a really powerful author. Yeah, someone who really leaves a mark on the indie space of epic and high fantasy. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that all the debut books I read during the second half of the year will have a similar effect to me, but those two names, yeah, they're smart guys and the things they're writing are really powerful. And yeah, give them a follow, and follow them on social media. Subscribe to their newsletters too. So this question is weird, because in the blog post that I found, they call it fictional couples, but at the same time this is a spin on the question, because the original one should be your favorite fictional crush. And I will go right in the middle, because I don't read romance books in general, aside one that it's really interesting. It is Umbra by Amber Thoreau, that has this subplot, romance subplot, which is really compelling, and a little bit and a really strong subplot in Waking Ursa Minor by Helen Wright Peterson. But I will make this prompt about friendship, okay? And I think that my favorite friendship in this is the one between Cooper and Reed from the Elements of Time, because they have the kind of friendship that I have never had, that I wish I had as a teenager. I wish I had someone like that to grow up with, and to experience life together, and growing up and understand the world and fight for each other, and to have that kind of a person that you can rely on and being a source of help and understanding for them. I'm pretty lucky because I have those friendships now that I'm a grow up, and I'm in a different position. I'm a much more accomplished person now, but I wish I had something like that when I was younger. And I actually have something similar to what Tal and Falcon have in the Legend of Tal series. That's one of the best friendships that I ever have, that I have ever read, because they're so different, but at the same time they complement each other so well. And I like the fact that, for example, Tal and they act as a foil one to another, because Tal always has this smug grin. He looks like he knows everything. He's always make fun of even the worst situation, but at the same time Falcon, he's the one who actually seems to know everything about the world and about Tal specifically, and has this unwavering trust in Tal and in his endeavors, even when he has to pay the consequences of those endeavors. So it's really heartwarming, and yeah, I changed the answer because I didn't have a specific answer to that kind of question, but I hope it was compelling and interesting for you too. The next question is about the new favorite character, and it is without a doubt Half Pint, created by Palmer Pickren for her book Dark Town. This is a lit RPG / fantasy sword and sorcery book with this side character that actually steals the show. He's an hobgoblin, he's a shapeshifter too. He turns into a cat, and he assists and guides and helps and mocks the protagonist, the actual protagonist of the book. It is an endlessly fascinating character. One of those characters that the more time you spend with him, the more it expands, with this extensive backstory, with a lot of secrets and a lot of weirdly compelling wisdom. Even if he's not characterized as the wise one, there are a few sentences that he says during the novel that really struck a chord with me and made me think and rethink a few things about my life. So yeah, that's an amazing character. And if you haven't read Dark Town, what are you waiting for? A book that makes you cry, ugly cry too. The one is At the Threshold of the Universe. Yeah, I'm mentioning this book maybe too much, but it is because it's the end of the series that has a ending and then another ending set many years later. So I love when authors gives you a sneak peek into what happens to the protagonist of a series many years later, after the main story is over. And that peak, it's heart-wrenching. It got me bawling with huge tears down my cheeks. Yeah, it is an amazing ending and really emotional, and yeah, it destroyed me absolutely. And another one is The Sunset Sovereign, which is not supposed to be that hard hitting. It's supposed to be cozy fantasy when you're chilling through the story and breezing through the story. And I still haven't had the time to give you a review about this specific book, but I'll give it to you in a couple of weeks. This is a weird story because it's really short, but it is really powerful. I think it is a way to convey a few things that are not overtly stated in the story. It has a really tight focus between the relationship between this dragon and a city that he helped to create and to protect. And the moment comes when the citizens of that place decide that they don't want him to protect the city anymore. They actually see him as a villain, as a threat to the well-being and to the welfare of the city. And it is really heartbreaking, especially at the ending, because I think in a way it speaks to the experience that many parents have with their children when they have to decide what's the best way to behave, to let them have space to grow and make experience during their lifetime, and at the same time do what they know it's best to protect those children. So it is really deep and really heartbreaking and really compelling, and yeah, wait for my review for that book. Book that make you happy. Not exactly happy, but they made me enthusiastic, and they gave me that rush of adrenaline because of the action scenes, and I think they are Pathlighter by Rob Leigh and Star Marshal by Jeffrey Rock Jr. for the same exact question, because they know how to do action scenes and to make them look cinematic and powerful and fast and really emotionally charged. They're really a different book. Pathlighter is high fantasy that really connected with me in a way that happened just with Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson, which is actually one of my favorite high fantasy trilogies of all time, while Star Marshal is space opera. But and Star Marshal is actually a short story, a really short story, while Pathlighter is a whole novel. So they're really different, but they have those specific action scenes and those set pieces that were really charged, really bombastic and really huge, and especially Pathlighter on the scale, but the ones that we have in Star Marshal 2, especially for the pacing, specifically for Star Marshal, they were really compelling. So yeah, not exactly happy because I don't usually read happy-go-lucky books. They're all pretty sad or with huge conflicts that will make you question your place in the world and your life. I'm not the one who actually makes me happy about that, finds joy in that way in books. I find joy in the experience of reading books, but not exactly because of the themes and the actual story you have in those books. But those two, they're really strong. You should definitely keep an eye on them. And the most beautiful book you've bought so far this year, I have two, and without the shadow of a doubt, the most beautiful one is this one. Is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. I mean, look at this one. It's a library. It's a weirdly fascinating and mysterious, and with this gloomy atmosphere that at the same time it's a little bit cozy, but I know that the story is not cozy at all. Yeah, this is amazing. This is the UK version. I know that the US one is pretty similar, but I think that the finish is a little bit different, and yeah, this is gorgeous. It looks amazing on my shelf. And I have another one. This is the Italian edition of The Will of the Many by James Islington. I was waiting for this one when I saw the artwork. I was pretty sure I was going to buy the book anyway, and I liked the minimalistic aesthetic, the conceptual aesthetic of the US one, which is a beautiful book. It's a gorgeous book. But this one, come on, take a look at this one. This is one of the very few times when the Italian edition looks better than the original one. This is the illustration is by artist Antonello Venditti, and it looks gorgeous. Take a look. Take a look. Just a little bit more. This one, the Italian edition, is printed by Fanucci Editore, and you'll find it on Amazon if you're a collector and want a different edition from the US one. Last question. What book do you need to read by the end of the year? I'm cheating a little bit because I am reading that book. I am doing it slowly and savoring it because I know it will take me a huge amount of time and effort, and it is The Curse of the Mistwrights by Janie Wers. This is the first book in her epic fantasy series, and the last book, the 11th volume, I think, Song of the Mysteries, I think, has been published a few weeks ago. There's an amazing video, a discussion about the launch of that book and about the state of epic fantasy in general on Philip Chase's channel, that I'll mention it down below, and I linked the video in the description box about the whole series about Jenny Ward's craftsmanship and her ability to write such a long and deep and complex series. And I can tell you that this one has the potential to change my life forever reading wise. I'm really enthusiastic about it, and I'm really happy that I found this series. Yeah, it will take me years to read it all because I'm such a slow reader, but yeah, I think it'll be worth it. Yeah. What was the last question? The last question. That's all I've got for you today. New reviews, new previews and reading updates will come during the next couple of days, maybe next week too. So remember that if you enjoy science fiction and fantasy books, this is the perfect place for you. So if you want to see more videos like this, you have more right here, right now. So consider subscribing, leave a like, share this video, and if you want more updates, daily updates, follow me on Instagram and on X. Thank you for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.